Get your Bibles and turn to 1 John chapter 2. 1 John chapter 2, verse 6. 1 John 2:6. He that saith he abideth in him ought himself also so to walk, even as he walked. Amen.
What do you know about Jesus? Think about that for a moment. What do you know about Jesus? Think of one or two things, and then why don't you pick one of those and very quietly turn to the person next to you and share with them one thing you know about Jesus. One thing. One thing. Come on, one thing. Don't you know one thing about Jesus? You're just bashful, right? One thing about Jesus that you know, you've read it, you've heard it, you have evidence that it's true. One thing about Jesus. If you're like most people, you have that everybody knows the version of Jesus. They know something about Christmas, the beginning. They know something about the end, Easter, he rose again. That's about it. That's what most people know. They call that everybody knows version of Jesus. But very few people know a lot of things about Jesus in between Christmas and Easter. I know the book of Revelation. Jesus says, would y'all say with me? I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning. Right. But also, y'all, he's in the middle. He's not just the beginning and the ending. He's in the middle. And the Bible, it teaches us not just about His birth, not just about Easter. Let's not just push to Easter and speak of His resurrection or the cross 3 days before. Let's not rush it. There's a lot in the middle about Jesus. Most people, when you ask them about Jesus, they'll say, He was virgin born. True. He was sinless. True. He was God. True. He was fully human. True. They're all true, but you notice how robotic you sound? Those are things you believe in. Those are doctrinal things. But what about, has He transformed your life? Is it personal? Do you know anything about the person, Jesus? His personality? The song that the pastor's wife wrote, Mary Slade, she wrote, Footsteps of Jesus, that makes the pathway, what? Glow. We will follow the steps of Jesus wherever they may go. That, not just in the 21st century right here now, but also in the Bible. We should follow the footprints of Jesus and see where He went. So why don't we do that? This is what season of the church year? It's a beautiful season. It's Lent. We finished Advent. It's not Easter season yet. It's in the middle, Lent, where we should follow the footsteps of Jesus and find out more about Him. More and more about Jesus. The more you know about Jesus, the more you'll love Him. The more you'll want to follow Him. The more you know about Him. So, do you have some water with you? Some sunscreen? Sunglasses and comfortable shoes? If you do, why don't you go with me? Let's follow the footprints of Jesus. It's going to be hot. It's going to be hot. Let's go to Jericho. How many of you have ever been to Jericho? Well, we're going today. Aren't you glad you came to church? Go to Mark chapter 10. Jot this verse down on your worship guide. Mark chapter 10, and let's follow the footsteps of Jesus. And we'll find Him in Jericho. Let's find out something about his personality. We know all those things we believe in that make us Baptists. But what about his personality? What made him unique? What did he do in the middle, in between Christmas and Easter? What was he like? Mark chapter 10, look at verse 46. Now Jesus came to where? Jericho. And he runs into there's a beggar. There was a lot of beggars in his day. We don't see a lot of beggars. Sometimes when I'm downtown, I see the homeless around the Friendship Center, Randy Sam's, and they're homeless. But rarely do they beg from me. They'll pass by me. You can tell they're homeless. You can smell them at a distance. It's a sad situation. But the homeless, the beggars were everywhere when Jesus walked, even in Jericho on that hot day. And he walks in. Verse 46 tells you his name. What's his name? Barnabas. He's there and he's begging. He's been blind. Never has taken part in society. It's a sad case. And he hears that Jesus is coming, and he yells out to Jesus. In verse 50, he yells out. In verse 51, Jesus says, "What would you want me to do unto you?" Now, let's find out all we can about Jesus this winter time. And Jesus says, "What do you need?" to the beggar, Barnabas. And when he says those words, what does the blind man say, the blind beggar? He would love to receive his sight. And look what Jesus says to him in verse 52. Then Jesus said to blind Bartimaeus, "Go your way. Your faith has made you well." Stop there. Look at those words. Go your way, Bartimaeus. Your faith has made you whole. Jesus takes no credit for the healing. Look what he says to the blind beggar. You had a part in this. Jesus says to this beggar, you know, you haven't had a part in anything. When the kids would play baseball when you were younger, blind Bartimaeus, nobody would ever ask you to be the pitcher. You don't ask a blind person to pitch the ball, right? Or the games that they play. He was always left out, never had a part in that. Never had a part in society. He was blind Bartimaeus. But on the day that he meets Jesus, Jesus deflects the credit from himself. Jesus said, "Be healed. Go your way." But then he says this to a man who's never had a part in society. You know what? You're a man of faith. You had a part in this. You're going to go, leave from here seeing, and it was partly because of you, your faith. Jesus gave a blind beggar who never had a part in life, told him, you had a part in what happened today. Look at all the people that saw it, and you had a part in it. Jesus, what was he like? He would give people words of hope. He would admonish them. He would encourage them. Never before, blind Bartimaeus was never a part of anything. And now Jesus says, you're center stage. Go your way, your faith. He didn't say, my healing power. He could have. I'll take all the credit. I'm the Alpha. I'm the Omega. I'm the beginning and the ending. No, Jesus says, Bartimaeus, your faith is something. You had a part in what has just happened. I'm sure he left skipping and praising God on cloud 9. I'm supposed to follow the footprints of Jesus. I've got to find out how he treated people. And it looks like when he would run into people, he would find something about that person that they didn't even recognize, point it out to them. Point it out to them. And tell them, you have great faith. You had a part in what was happening today. Amen. It doesn't just stop there. Look at the Gospel of John. Go to the right in your Bible. John chapter 1. That's Jericho. I hope y'all can walk a few miles. Let's go down to Galilee. John chapter 1. Let's leave Jericho and let's see how he talks to people in Galilee. He's going to run into a guy named Nathaniel and a guy named Simon. Let's see what he says to them. Let's see how he treats them. And let's see if this is how you treat people as you walk down the dusty road of life. John chapter 1. Verse 47. Jesus saw Nathanael coming toward him, and he said to Nathanael, listen to these words, "Behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom there is no deceit." And Nathanael said, "Hey, how do you know that? We never met before." And Jesus said, "Before Philip called you, when you were under the tree, I knew you, I saw you." But look at the words that Jesus said to Nathanael. He said, "Look at this guy. He's transparent. He's a decent person. He's an honorable person, a respectable person. He's a true Israelite." Usually, when you run into a family and they have one kid that always gets off the straight and narrow, and they have one kid that always walks the line, which one gets most of the attention? The troubled one. Yeah. They never praise the child that always does everything right. But the child that's always in trouble, always getting off the road, they get all the credit, they get all the attention because they demand it. Jesus says to a guy who always did the right thing to Nathanael, he says, "I want to bring it to everybody's attention. Look who's coming. This is a true Israelite, and in his mouth is no deceit. He's an honest person, transparent. He's a good guy. This Nathanael guy's a good guy." Jesus would praise the person that did the right thing. Now today, what would we call Nathanael? Oh, here comes, from last week's sermon, here comes Nathanael, and he thinks he's holier than... Yeah, that's what we say. But Jesus says, look, here comes Nathanael. He's a decent person. Jesus would find something in every person that stood out. He would point it out to everybody. Are you like that? Or are you going around just saying, "I believe in Christmas. I believe he was born of a virgin. I believe he died on the cross. After 3 days he rose again"? You're a robot. That's all you are. When you follow Jesus, you look for things in his personality, and you try to live that way. To the blind man, he says, "You had a part in what happened today." To Nathanael, who always did the right thing, he said, "Good for you. Good for you. It's good to see somebody who does the right thing." He's a true Israelite, and in his mouth, he doesn't curse every 3 words. Maybe we ought to talk about that. How are you doing your cursing? Yeah, how's your mouth? As I used to say, I'm going to wash your mouth out with... Yeah, we don't do that anymore. We have hand sanitizer. I'm going to wash your mouth out with hand sanitizer. How are you doing when no one's around, really? If something makes you mad, do you have to say something vulgar, something bad? Or something dark? Jesus says he's a good man. He watches what he says, and I want all of y'all to know that. Look at him. His name's Nathanael. Now, it goes to another man in the same chapter. Can you find him? Let's see. There he is. Verse 42. We're still in Galilee. I hope you haven't... in fact, about right now, you might ought to put some more sunscreen on. For you that don't have much hair. It's hot out here. And some of you are fanning. Yeah, Billy, they're fanning. Since I told them we're going somewhere hot. Right? We're down by this Galilee. He runs into Peter. His name is what? Simon. And Jesus says to Simon, y'all, he's everything but strong, as we'll find out later. And Jesus said, I'm going to change your name to, verse 42, I'm going to change your name to what? Cephas. That's Aramaic for what? Rock. Yeah. You're up and down like this, but from now on, everybody's going to call you Rocky. Yeah, that's what it means in the 21st century, Rocky. You're weak, but I see potential. You know what he's saying? Do you ever do this to people? Those that feel like they're failures, have you ever said to them, hey, you have great potential. Hang in there. That's what Jesus is saying. To a man that's like this, a fisherman like this, Jesus says to him, he could have said anything, he could have insulted him. But Jesus says to Peter, hey, your name is Simon, but I'm going to name you Rocky. And this is the guy, Jesus saw something in him that no one else saw. This is the guy who preached on the day of Pentecost. And how many people got saved? Remember that? 3,000. He had to say, y'all come help me baptize them. Everybody was baptizing that day. To get 3,000 people baptized after he preached. He was just Simon, but Jesus says, I believe in looking at the heart of people. Every person has something in them that you can pull out. You can see it. If you'll look, if you'll stop long enough, go beyond just how are you doing this morning. Look in their eyes, see that they're human. You can find something in everybody. Point it out to them that need to see it because they have forgotten it. Life has pulled it out of them. They have forgotten that they had any potential. Peter he was just busy fishing. Little did he know God was going to use him in a great way to kick off this new group called Christians. And now, today, here we are in the 21st century. What is the largest religion in the world? Christianity. Who preached on that first day? Peter. He was just Simon. But Jesus said, I see something good in you. I'm going to call you Rocky. Yeah, now go to Matthew. That's back the other way. Now let's go down. Let's go down to Bethany. How many of you are tired yet? No, I can tell some of you are hungry. We're not tired, but we're hungry. It's almost that time to eat. Matthew chapter 26, the very last, close to the end of the book. We're going to Bethany now. We're leaving Galilee. We're following the footsteps of Jesus. Why are we jumping around? We're trying to keep up with Jesus. It's hard. It's hard to keep up with Jesus. He's here, all of this region. He's at Jericho, then he's at Galilee, then he's at Bethany, and all these locations. You've got to follow him. You've got to keep up with him. You were the one singing footsteps of Jesus that makes the pathway glow. People, let me tell you something. If we would do this, if we would go around today looking for the good in people and point it out to them, say something encouraging, it would make your pathway glow. If you're here this morning and you're down, why don't you follow the footsteps of Jesus and encourage people and your pathway to glow? If your pathway is not glowing, that tells you something. Maybe you look at people and you insult them and you say negative things to them. Maybe that's why your pathway is not glowing. Jesus, who's walking in front of you, he's encouraging everybody. Now, look what happens here. There's a kind of a shady person on the scene. Chapter 26, verse 2 is Passover time. Look at verse 6. And Jesus goes to where? Bethany. He's at Bethany in the house of Simon the leper. You wouldn't even go in a leper's house in the first century, would you? I wouldn't. I'd stay away from them. But Jesus goes to Simon's house in verse 6, the leper. And while he's there, look at verse 7. There's a lady, she has an expensive bottle of what? Alabaster box of oil. And what does she have the audacity to do? She takes out her oil, very pricey oil, and starts pouring it on who? Jesus. And what do all the people say at the supper? She's wasted. That is a waste. That is a waste. To take perfume, that expensive perfume, that could have been given to who? The Friendship Center. That could have been given to the poor. And then Jesus immediately defends her. Jesus defends her among the people. Look at verse 12. She has poured the fragrance out of my body. I say to you, this is what I think of this lady. All of y'all are criticizing her for what she's done. But Jesus says, no, I'm going to look for the good in people. Look what Jesus says of this lady, verse 13. Assuredly I say to you, wherever the gospel is preached in the whole world, what this woman has done today will be told as a memorial And here we are. Y'all think about it. She was included in the Gospel of Matthew. Here we are living in the 21st century, and now we know about this lady. We don't know her name, but she comes and she takes the bottle of perfume and she breaks it. And Jesus, everybody else says she should have done that. She should have saved that for the prom or for something else, or for those nice banquets that we go to. But she pours them out on Jesus, on his body, the perfume. And Jesus says, well, she has done, this lady, this is what he says. What is he saying? This lady is generous. What she has done should be told to the whole world. See what he's saying? The acts that people do, you need to go up to them. Jesus would go up to people when they would do an honorable act, and he would say, good for you. Your story should be told. And that's what they do. They'll do it anyway. You might as well start doing some good acts. You know why? At funerals, of late, all the funerals that I go to, all people want to do is tell you different things that he or she did for them. What would they say of you? If next week, let's say Wednesday or Thursday, it's your day, God calls you home, what would we say of you? Yes, even teenagers could be brought up in this because teenagers die too. They die all the time too. Let's say Wednesday you die. How much would it be hard for me to gather up from people things to say about you? Acts that you have done. Jesus said, acts that people do that are honorable should be told to everybody. Look at that verse. What she has done, everybody ought to know about it. This should be added on, and this should be told at her funeral. This should be told in memory of her. What will they say in memory of you? Well, it's hot, and we're running out of water. So let's go to Lower Jordan. Go to Luke chapter 7. What I've found so far, Jesus in the middle. Everybody he runs into, he can pick out something to bring them up. Those people that are cast down. Are you like him? Are you following Jesus like this? Luke chapter 7. Luke chapter 7. John's in prison, John the Baptist, the hippie that ate health food stuff all the time. Yeah. What did John eat? Locusts and honey. Isn't that health food? That's pretty raw. Yeah. He's homeless. He's friendless. And you can definitely smell John coming down the dusty road. I hope he would dip himself in the dirty, muddy Jordan River occasionally. But anyway, most people stayed away from John the Baptist, and now they've locked him up. And John says, would you go ask Jesus, is he the one? Is he truly the Messiah? So the disciples come and ask Jesus, and Jesus tells them, yes, I'm the Messiah. But then as his disciples leave to go tell John, look what Jesus says to John. No one spoke highly of John the Baptist. He was weird. He was strange. And in chapter 7 of Luke, look at verse 28. This is what Jesus had to say of the strange fellow, John the Baptist. For I say to you, among those born of women, there is not a greater. You got to be kidding, Jesus. You got to be kidding. Look at those words. For I say, among those born of women, there is not a greater prophet than John the Baptist. Wow. All those little fragments in the gospel stories about John, he's just a screamer, a strange person. He dressed funny. He was unkept. He would eat raw stuff, nasty stuff, Jesus says, out of all the children that have come forth from the womb, there's not a greater than John the Baptist. Have you noticed? Have you noticed what's going on here in the middle? If you look at Jesus in the middle, find out more what you believe, and how you should live. It's easy to believe a lot of stuff about Jesus. It's another thing to live it. To live it. And this is what we find. Jesus sees the blind man, and what does he say to the blind man? What does he say? Your faith. In other words, you had a part of this. Jesus finds Nathanael a good guy, and what does he say? You're a good guy. Yeah. Nathanael was predictable. Jesus said, I want everybody to know you're a good guy. Look at you. I want to pat you on the back for being a good guy. And then to Peter, unstable Peter, he said, you're going to be called what? Cephas. Rocky. You're afraid to say Rocky, aren't you? It's okay. Say Rocky. Rocky. Nothing wrong with Rocky. You're the rock. You're stable. It's in you, Peter. And then to the lady that everybody was criticizing, Jesus said what? This should be told of you. That when people think of you after you're dead and gone, they should tell the story of what you did, because this is an honorable act. And now to this guy, John the Baptist, the first century hippie, Jesus says, there's not a greater man, a greater prophet than John the Baptist. Now look this way for a moment. If he walked in this room, and he came over and sat next to you, and you had the nerve to look at Jesus in the eye, what would he say to you? Did you see it? It's in the same verse. Verse 28. But he who is least in the kingdom of God is greater than... Oh, don't be afraid of that. You're here today, you could barely muster up enough strength to come. And you feel like you've been the worst Christian of the week. Jesus says, John's great, but you that are least in the kingdom. You feel about this tall spiritually this morning. You who are least in the kingdom are greater than John the Baptist. That would be you, all of you in the back, that feel, I haven't done anything worth talking about. I'm the least in the kingdom of God. If you're here this morning, you feel like I'm the least in the kingdom of God. Jesus said to you, you're a great person. Nobody else would. They would criticize you for being the least by doing that little bit that you did. They would put damnation all over you if they could. But Jesus says, you're great. And greater things will you do because, say it with me, because I go to my Father, Jesus says. The people following Jesus, the people that follow Jesus, just like we finished following him this morning, a little bit of his life, time has gotten away from us. We have to land this plane and get back to the United States. We've been over in the hot area, the Middle East, following Jesus. And some of you are still fanning. Yeah, it's hot. Go ahead and fan. Take a sip of water. Put on sunscreen. It's hot over there. Now we're coming back here. All the followers of Jesus thought he did great things, and Jesus said, hey, these things and greater shall you do because I'm going to my Father. We're living in those days. So what do you do? What do you do as you look at the middle of Jesus and you look at his life? You see what he did, how he spoke to people, and this is what you do. You try to implement that to your life. What you see Jesus doing, you try to do. In fact, go back to 550 as we close. 550. Look at the words again. Written by a pastor's wife who wrote many hymns and many poems. Mary Slade. She wrote the song, Footsteps of Jesus. Look where that may lead you. I love her first verse. Sweetly, Lord, have we heard thee calling. Come follow me. He's calling you to follow him. Too long have you said, I'm a Baptist. and I embrace the Baptist faith and message. You've been saying that too long. He says, the pastor's wife says this morning, Mary Slade, no, more than believe, follow me. There's a difference. How many of y'all know what I'm talking about? There's a difference in believing and following. A lot of people profess, but that's about as far as it goes. Look at the first sentence. And we see that like footprints falling lead us to thee. Look where they may lead you. Look at verse 2. Though they lead over the cold, dark mountains seeking His sheep. Sometimes there's people that you run into. They're wandering. He wants you to find them. When was the last time you reached out to people that are struggling spiritually? Or along by Siloam's fountains. That's where people would go. That's this fountain where the blind man, Jesus said, go wash out your eyes. In Siloam's fountain. Helping the weak. Look at verse 3. If they lead through the temple holy, preaching the word. Some of you ought to teach and preach. That's where He leads some to be preachers. He's calling them yet. Or in homes of the poor and lowly, serving the Lord. Jesus goes everywhere. Not just in the sanctuary, but outside. And then lastly, look where it all ends. Some of us may be at stanza 4. We may be close. All of us are closer to stanza 4 than we were yesterday. Look at stanza 4. Then at last, when on high He sees us, our journey's done. We will rest where the steps of Jesus end at His throne. And then the chorus, footprints of Jesus that make the pathway glow. We will follow the steps of Jesus wherever they go. And this morning, this is where His footprints have led us. His footprints have led us face to face with people. A blind man, 2 fishermen, a lady. Different people. John the Baptist. And at every encounter, Jesus did this. He spoke words of hope and encouragement to every one of them. During the season of Lent, as we head toward Easter, I want to ask you, follow the footprints of Jesus. Everybody you talk to, slow down, look them in the face, and try to say something good to them. Something positive. Something that would encourage them. Something that's true. All these things that Jesus said to these people, it was true. They just didn't know it. They needed to be reminded of it. Let's pray together. Father, as we come to pray this morning, make us more and more like Jesus. And help us to speak to people as He would speak to them. Lord, if there's anybody here and they've never trusted Christ as Savior, we pray that they would today. That they would come forward and trust Jesus as Lord and Savior. But Father, if there's anyone here and they're following Jesus, yes, but all alone, they're not with a group of people. Lord, if there's anyone here this morning that You would be kind enough to join to this church, this fellowship, this ever-growing fellowship, we pray that they would listen to the voice of Your Spirit and follow Jesus' footprints to the front here and join Buchanan. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Let's stand together and sing, O Mighty Cross, the cross of Jesus. And as we're singing together this morning, if you'd like to come pray in the altars and say, Jesus, I want to be more and more like You, do that. Do that. Or if you'd like to join or give your life to Christ, respond as we sing, O Mighty Cross.